These events as a result of the forced rain which occurred in CRR and Upper River region. URR registered 4,325 persons were affected, while CRR 1,246 were affected. But you can see, as a result of windstorm, we all know deforestation influence what's happening in that part of the country, which is URR. For URR, you can see that Kolibantang has been affected, which is an emerging hotspot, because we have never experienced any such things at Kolibantang before. But because of the engineering pattern, which is associated with well, a lot of people, local knowledge is saying that it's associated with the road construction that's happening here. This is why it's important to combine conventional knowledge with indigenous local knowledge, so that you will be able to track the water flow and also track some of these waterways. So as a result of that, this year Kolibantang has been seriously affected as a result of flooding.
So in terms of putting in place strategies to ensure that you mitigate the impact of disaster in these two areas, what are some of the things that you have put in place?
As at now, what we are doing, first of all, I just want to tell you that we are developing a project with International Organization of Migration. This is the first time such projects is taking place, which is called Cash for Work, especially for returnees who just came from abroad. We want to link this Cash for Work with flood mitigation by coming up with sandbags, so that will reduce the velocity of storm water whenever it hits this this area. That's one way. In CRR, we are actually working with National Road Authority to embark on some engineering work, especially the eastern part of CRR, which is Sameshuru-Akunda. There is a stream that caused serious flooding problem. So as a result of that, we are actually working with NRA to make sure that we mitigate the impact of flooding on the population.
All right, so the capital city, Banjul, was spared as far as the recent windstorm and flooding is concerned. But what happened, I mean, in the last rainy season is still fresh in the minds of people that work and live in the capital city. What are the plans in place to ensure Banjul is safe this time around?
Well, Banjul is, I can tell you, Banjul will be safe by the grace of God. What actually happened in the National Disaster Management Agency, in collaboration with the council, is embarking on what we call Operation No Flooding in Banjul. Because over the years, we all know what caused the flooding in Banjul. The pumping machines have not been working for so many years, and then the bone polder was filled with water. But thank God, there are two new machines that's actually working now, that were bought and installed and functional. So in addition to that, if you look at Grand Street, you know, there's a canal. We are opening all those canals so that the water will, once it comes to Banjul, it will be easily flowed into the bone polder. Then the machine will pump it out. So we can happily say, that the flooding in Banjul will be seriously minimized.
That's great news for people living and working in Banjul. Now, separate and apart from Banjul, the KM, which is the most densely populated area, is also another very important hotspot as far as disaster is concerned. Areas like Talinding and Ibo Town are frequently affected, especially during the rainy season. What are the plans for KM?
Well, I will tell you that this is a government which cares about the welfare of Gambian people. Under the leadership of the Vice President, we all know the Vice President is not a politician, he's a technician. The Vice President summons a meeting and approved some money for National Disaster Management Agency. If you can recall, over the years, Ibo Town has been a big challenge in terms of flooding. But this year, some funds have been approved under the leadership of the Honorable Vice President, and then we clean Ibo Town, clean Brikama Jambal Sane, Bakau, and even Joshua. So
Talinding
is also also been cleaned at the moment. What actually happening in Talending, this IOM, our collaboration with IOM, what we call cash for work, will be concentrated in Talending, simply because some of the areas in Talending cannot be accessed by our equipment due to the narrowness of some of these streets. So as a result of that, we are employing this cash for work to mitigate flooding in Talending. That's currently it's at an advanced stage. Hopefully, we'll start very, very soon.
All right. So building resilience is one fundamental aspect of the crusade to tackle flooding and windstorm. Yeah. And already, like you said, some people have been affected, and probably we don't pray for it, but you never know what the future holds. Yeah. What plans do you have in place for helping people that are affected by disaster and as well potential disaster victims?
Well, I can tell you, when disaster occurs, the first thing that we look at is data collection, assessing and collect data. But data collection is not an event, it's a process. I can just take example from COVID-19. When COVID-19 happened, government declared a state of emergency.
Very well.
I can remember how many politicians were calling me, my area, my area, my area, my area. But again, we responded. Certain decisions were taken in the context of emergency. But those decisions are now being contested at the National Assembly. So we are very conscious of that. This is why we want to make sure that we do due diligence and also strengthen accountability. This is why you can see when a disaster event happens, assessment is conducted. Because of certain procurement process, we would not just go there and provide a relief to them. Because we all know disaster is an abnormal situation. Emergency anywhere in the world is an abnormal situation. And decisions are taken on the basis of emergency to respond to emergency. So if such decisions were taken and then are being questioned when the situation is normal. So this is why we are very conscious of due diligence, and we want to make sure whatever we do due diligence so that we can address the issue of accountability at the National Assembly.
Sanna Dahaba, Executive Director of the National Disaster Management Agency. Finally, I mean, what message do you have for people that live in areas that are prone to disaster?
Well, when you say disaster, it's relative. Well,
maybe flooding and windstorm, to be precise.
Flooding. You see, this country, there is already an existing regulation with regard to waste management in this country. But how many people are adhering to that? That's an issue at the moment. You and I is aware that waste-induced flooding. But you have indiscriminate dumping of waste anywhere in this country. Compliance is an issue, enforcement is an issue. So we are appealing to the general public. The government has a responsibility in addressing the needs of the people, but the people themselves also has a responsibility.
Yeah, in fact,
this has been the biggest challenge.
Yeah, talking of the responsibility of the people, I mean, you look at the new airport, Batin Hadin Highway that is under construction.
Exactly.
The flyover at Costa Road, people have started dumping waste under the flyover.
I'm just coming from there.
People have started dumping waste under the flyover.
I'm just coming from there. That's an eyesore. This is why I brought this question of enforcement and compliance. Government has to strengthen the enforcement aspect so that people will also need to take their responsibility. Indiscriminate dumping of waste is a big issue in this country. So I think this is the biggest challenge of government, and we need to collectively address this as a matter of urgency if you want to reduce the impact of flooding on the population. All
right, Mr. Dahaba, we want to thank you so much for taking time to join us on Newsfile. Hopefully, we'll be having you here more often during the course of the rainy season.
Thank you very much.